It's late evening in downtown Crestfield, a mid-sized city known for its sharp contrast between its gleaming financial district and the underfunded inner neighborhoods. Officer Rick Stanton is behind the wheel of his cruiser, rolling slowly through the dimly lit streets. To him, it's just another night on patrol, looking for suspicious activity, waiting for the next call, and keeping his instincts sharp, as he often puts it. Stanton receives a dispatch over the radio. Possible suspect spotted in vehicle theft, black female, mid-30s, dark SUV, last seen near 5th and Main. The message is vague. No license plate, no exact description beyond race, gender, and car type. But Stanton's focus sharpens immediately. As he turns a corner, he sees a woman pulling into a small parking lot beside a coffee shop. She's driving a black SUV and appears to be alone. She steps out calmly, wearing a dark blazer, slacks, and heels. Her body language is composed, but Stanton only sees what he's trained himself to, the match in the basic description. Without calling in backup or cross-checking the vehicle's license plate, Stanton pulls into the lot behind her, lights flashing. The woman, startled but composed, turns around. She's holding her phone, likely to pay or respond to a message. Stanton exits his car quickly, hand already resting on his weapon, and barks, "Hands where I can see them." Step away from the vehicle. Confused, the woman raises her hands but calmly speaks. "Officer, there's been a mistake," he cuts her off. "You match the description of a suspect. Keep your hands up." As a few pedestrians begin filming from the sidewalk, the woman asks to present her ID. He refuses. Instead, Stanton grabs her wrist, turns her around, and cuffs her tightly. She doesn't resist but keeps repeating, "I am not who you think I am." Despite her clean appearance, calm demeanor, and total cooperation, Stanton doesn't listen. He radios in that he has a suspect in custody. Other officers arrive minutes later. One of them, a younger cop named Miller, glances at her and hesitates. He recognizes her face from somewhere, but doesn't speak up. The woman is led to the squad car as onlookers murmur, some filming, others expressing outrage. One passerby shouts, "You didn't even ask for her name." But Stanton ignores them. The woman sits in the back seat, silent now, her eyes fixed on the badge number stitched onto his chest. Stanton, pleased with his quick work, tells Miller, "That was clean. In and out." Miller doesn't respond. There's something gnawing at him, her voice, her poise. Something doesn't add up. Unbeknownst to Stanton, the woman he just arrested isn't just any professional. She's Marsha Reynolds, the chief prosecutor for the state of Illinois. Her identity, credentials, and career have just been stripped down by a rushed assumption, rooted not in fact, but in appearance. And soon, the entire system and Stanton's own judgment will be put on trial. This moment, while seemingly minor to Stanton, is about to become a national headline. Marsha Reynolds sits in a cold holding cell at the Crestfield precinct, her blazer wrinkled, her wrists sore from the too tight handcuffs. The metallic clang of the cell door closing behind her echoes louder than usual, not because of the sound, but because of the insult. A professional, a public servant, a state official, reduced to a case number. And for what? Driving while. Blacked out inside, the officers barely glance at her. Some snicker as they process her paperwork. Others act as if she doesn't exist. Officer Stanton struts through the booking area, chest puffed, convinced he's made a solid arrest. To him, this is just another win for the department. One more offender off the streets. He hasn't even asked her full name. Marsha watches quietly, taking mental notes. No Miranda rights read. No confirmation of her identity. No search warrant. Every error is being recorded in her mind like legal ammunition. She knows the law better than most people in the building. She helped write some of the very procedures being violated right now. When she calmly requests to speak to her attorney, she's ignored. When she asks to call her office, the desk sergeant waves her off. 1. Officer mocks her. You're not special. Everyone in here thinks they're somebody. In truth, she is somebody. Marsha Reynolds is the first black woman to hold the position of chief prosecutor in the state. She spent her career fighting for justice and accountability, not just for victims of crime, but also for those failed by the system. Yet now, she's experiencing firsthand what many black Americans go through, the feeling of being unseen, unheard, and automatically guilty. Back at the precinct desk, Officer Miller, the young cop who had recognized her earlier, pulls out his phone and discreetly searches her name. When her profile comes up, complete with photos, credentials, and recent headlines about her legal reforms, his face pales. He quickly walks over to Stanton, whispering nervously, "I think you made a mistake." Stanton scoffs. "Mistake?" She matched the description. Miller insists, "That's Marsha Reynolds, the state's chief prosecutor. You didn't even ask for ID." The mood shifts. Stanton's face goes tight. Doubt creeps in. The desk sergeant hears the name and immediately calls a supervisor. Within minutes, the precinct is buzzing. Phones start ringing. A high-level judge demands to know why Reynolds has been detained. One call comes from the governor's office. In her cell, Marsha sits calmly, hands folded. She knows what's coming. She knew it the moment Stanton ignored her words and put her in cuffs. This moment, while humiliating, will not end her. In fact, she knows it may spark something far greater. She doesn't want revenge. She wants change. As officers begin scrambling to correct the situation, it's too late. The damage is done. Not just to her dignity, but to the image of a department too eager to act without proof, too comfortable treating black bodies as suspects. And tomorrow, in court, the world will find out exactly who Officer Stanton arrested, and what it will cost them. Morning light filters through the courthouse windows as the courtroom fills with murmurs and camera flashes. The energy is electric. The arrest from the night before has already gone viral. A shaky cell phone video shows a black woman in professional attire being forcefully cuffed and taken away by Officer Rick Stanton. The clip ends with her calm voice saying, "You've made a mistake." No one watching the video had known exactly who she was. But the rumors swirling around town and the sudden media interest suggest something much bigger than a simple mistaken identity. Officer Stanton walks into the courtroom, uniform pressed, eyes sharp. Despite Miller's warnings and the panic at the station last night, he still believes this will be handled quietly. Maybe someone will smooth it over. He assumes the woman will be released quietly, the way powerful people are often shielded from real scrutiny. But he doesn't understand who he's dealing with. The judge enters and calls the court to order. The clerk begins to read the case. State of Illinois versus Marsha D. Reynolds. The room goes silent. Officer Stanton's jaw tightens. The name echoes in his mind, Marsha Reynolds. Suddenly it clicks. The judge looks down from the bench with a piercing gaze. "Before we proceed," he says, "let the record clearly reflect that the defendant, Ms. Reynolds, is not only innocent of the alleged charge but is, in fact, the chief prosecutor for the state of Illinois." A wave of gasps rolls through the courtroom. Some reporters drop their pens. Others whisper frantically. Cameras flash like lightning. Stanton's face drains of color. He looks over at Marsha, now seated at the defense table, dressed in a sharp navy suit. Calm, poised, unbothered. She turns to him slowly and meets his eyes. Her expression is not angry, it's knowing. As if she's been here before, not personally. but through the countless cases she's prosecuted, involving unjust arrests and racial profiling, the judge continues, "It is deeply troubling that someone of Ms. Reynolds's position and legal authority was arrested without due process, without verification of identity, and without probable cause. This court is now reviewing all procedural errors made by the officers involved." Officer Stanton is ordered to the stand to give a statement. For the first time in his career, he stumbles over his words. He tries to justify his decision. The vague description, the urgency of the radio call, but every explanation falls flat under the weight of what he didn't do. He never asked for her name, never ran her plate, never verified anything. Meanwhile, Marcia's attorney calmly lays out the timeline and plays the video footage. It shows Stanton's aggressiveness, her calm demeanor, and the absence of any actual criminal activity. Outside, news trucks surround the courthouse. Protesters gather, holding signs that read, "Justice for Marcia," and "Professionalism does not equal protection from profiling." What was meant to be a routine arraignment has now become a political and cultural earthquake. In that courtroom, justice begins to shift, not just for Marcia Reynolds, but for every person who has ever been misjudged based on skin color instead of truth. And Officer Stanton? He just learned that assumptions, especially when fueled by bias, can destroy more than reputations. They can bring down careers, departments, and entire systems. The shock of the courtroom revelation doesn't end at the courthouse steps. By the time Marcia Reynolds exits the building, now fully identified as the chief prosecutor of the state of Illinois, the story has already gone national. Major news outlets are broadcasting the arrest footage on a loop. A black woman, in a blazer, calm and composed, being shoved into a squad car without so much as an ID check. Social media erupts. Hashtags like #JusticeForMarcia and #ArrestedWhileBlack trend globally. Civil rights advocates, politicians, and legal experts weigh in. Many are outraged, not just by the treatment Marcia endured, but by what it reveals about systemic issues that disproportionately affect black and brown communities. If a high-ranking official like Marcia Reynolds could be profiled and arrested so carelessly, what does that mean for the everyday person with no public platform? Back at the precinct, panic has taken root. Officer Stanton is placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Internal Affairs launches a formal inquiry. His arrest record is pulled for review, and it doesn't take long for patterns to emerge. Several past complaints for excessive force and racial bias, all previously dismissed or buried. Now those cases are being reopened. Meanwhile, Marcia doesn't retreat from the spotlight. Instead, she leans into it. Standing before a sea of microphones, she delivers a calm but fiery press statement on the courthouse steps. Her words are powerful. This isn't about embarrassment or ego. It's not about titles or who I am. It's about what this represents. I experienced firsthand what thousands of people endure without witnesses, cameras, or any chance to fight back. And I want to make something very clear. This will not be brushed aside. She announces her intention to form an independent legal task force to investigate patterns of racial profiling and unlawful arrests across the state. Her goal is systemic change, not personal revenge. Her voice becomes a rallying cry for criminal justice reform, with communities demanding accountability at every level of law enforcement. The police department's leadership scrambles to control the damage. The chief releases a public apology, but it falls flat. Many view it as performative. Pressure mounts from city officials and the public for real change. Protests grow in size, and city council meetings overflow with outraged citizens sharing their own stories of police misconduct. Stanton, once a confident veteran officer, now finds himself cornered. He's not just facing departmental discipline, he could lose his badge, pension, and career. But more than that, he's being forced to reckon with the deeper truth, his own internal biases, and how they've shaped his decisions for years. Across the state, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges take note. The arrest and its fallout send a clear message. No one is above the law, but also, no one should be beneath its protection. And Marcia? She's no longer just a chief prosecutor. She's become a symbol of what it means to challenge a broken system from within and to demand that justice truly be blind, not biased. But the fight is far from over. In fact, it's just beginning. A week after the explosive courtroom revelation, Officer Rick Stanton is summoned to a private disciplinary hearing. Before facing the full review board, he's offered one last opportunity to speak, not to defend himself publicly, but to sit down face to face with the woman he wronged, Chief Prosecutor Marcia Reynolds. The meeting is held in a private conference room inside the State Justice Building. The atmosphere is heavy with silence and unspoken tension. Stanton enters first, no longer in uniform, but in plain clothes, his badge and gun suspended, his future uncertain. He's no longer the confident, swaggering officer who threw handcuffs on a stranger. He looks older now, worn. Marcia walks in moments later, dignified, calm, and composed as ever. She closes the door behind her. There are no cameras, no microphones, just two people, one table, and years of injustice sitting between them. Stanton begins, his voice quieter than usual. "I didn't know who you were," he says. "If I had known, I would have." Marcia cuts in gently but firmly. "If you had known I was the chief prosecutor, you would have treated me differently." That's exactly the problem. Her words hang in the air, sharp and undeniable. He swallows hard. "I was following a description. I thought I was doing my job." "No," she says. "You weren't doing your job. You were acting on assumption. You ignored protocol. You ignored my words. You ignored basic procedure because you saw a black woman in a black SUV and made a decision, not based on facts, but on fear or bias or both." Stanton doesn't respond immediately. He knows there's no defense. For years, he's operated on instincts shaped by experience and unchecked prejudice. What he once considered street smarts is now being exposed as dangerous negligence. Marcia leans forward, voice steady but intense. "You didn't just humiliate me. You endangered my life. Do you understand that? If I had resisted, even a little, if I had reached for my ID the wrong way, how would that story have ended?" Stanton nods slowly. His hands are shaking now. "I do understand. IDN single quotes to ... see you. I just saw a target, and I'm sorry." Marcia pauses, then softens, not out of sympathy, but because she understands the power of empathy over ego. "Officer Stanton, I'm not here to ruin your life, but I can't allow you to go back into that uniform without reckoning with what you've done. Not just to me, but to everyone before me you treated the same way." She slides a document across the table, an agreement. It offers him a choice: testify publicly about the systemic failures within the department, including profiling practices, lack of training, and pressure from leadership, or face public trial and likely termination with disgrace. Stanton looks at the paper. It's not just a legal offer, it's a mirror. And for the first time in his life, he sees what everyone else has seen all along. By the time he walks out of that room, he knows the path ahead won't be easy, but maybe, just maybe, it can lead to something right. And for Marcia, this is more than personal justice. It's about pushing open the doors of accountability, one uncomfortable confrontation at a time. After the confrontation, the stakes escalate far beyond the initial wrongful arrest. Marcia Reynolds, now a symbol of resistance against systemic racial bias in law enforcement, channels her personal ordeal into a broader movement for criminal justice reform. She understands that her experience, while shocking to many because of her position, reflects a much larger and more pervasive problem affecting countless others without the platform or privilege she has sought in the weeks that follow. Marcia uses her influence and visibility to rally lawmakers, civil rights organizations, and community leaders. She pushes for comprehensive reforms, better police training to eliminate implicit bias, improved accountability measures, transparent investigations of misconduct, and the establishment of independent civilian review boards. Her speeches are poignant and compelling, emphasizing that justice must be equitable and that racial profiling undermines the very foundations of law enforcement. Simultaneously, Officer Stanton faces the consequences of his actions. Choosing to cooperate, he agrees to testify before a special investigative committee set up to examine racial profiling within the police force. His testimony reveals internal pressures to prioritize efficiency over fairness and exposes gaps in training that tacitly encourage officers to rely on stereotypes. Stanton's candid admissions add weight to calls for systemic change. Though they come with personal costs, he faces backlash from some colleagues and a fractured reputation. Media closely follows these developments, highlighting Stanton's fall from grace and Marcia's unwavering dedication to reform. Public opinion largely supports Marcia, and her story becomes a catalyst for grassroots activism and legislative proposals. Local and state governments begin debating bills aimed at curbing police abuses and enhancing community oversight. Marcia also channels her energy into supporting others who have faced wrongful arrests and police misconduct. She helps coordinate legal aid clinics and pushes for policies that protect the rights of the accused, regardless of race or status. Her commitment is tireless, rooted in the belief that true justice cannot be selective. In parallel, the police department initiates internal reforms, albeit under pressure. New protocols emphasize de-escalation and community engagement. Training modules on implicit bias become mandatory. However, resistance persists among some officers who view these changes as threats to their authority or skepticism about the necessity of reform. Marcia recognizes that transforming a deeply entrenched system will be neither quick nor easy, but her personal experience lends credibility and urgency to the fight. She becomes a beacon of hope for many who have long felt powerless. The story culminates with Marcia walking into the state capitol building, poised to meet with lawmakers considering a landmark criminal justice reform bill. A reporter asks if she remains angry about the ordeal that brought her here. She smiles calmly and replies, "Anger is fuel. Justice is direction." Her words capture the essence of her journey, from a wrongful arrest to a determined crusade for change. This final part highlights not just individual redemption, but the potential for systemic transformation. It underscores how personal injustice, when met with resilience and leadership, can ignite a broader movement toward fairness, accountability, and equity in the justice system.